Alright, so here I have a pretty strong and fun red-green land destruction deck. Needs some tweaking, but I've won quite a lot of matches against top decks with this list. So let's take a look. Okay, so we basically run in total 8 land destruction spells, 4 copies of Mwonvuli Acid-Moss and 4 copies of Thermokarst. So Mwonvuli Acid-Moss is a sorcery. It's 4 mana, 2 generic, 2 green. It says destroy target land, search your library for a forest, and put that card onto the battlefield tapped. So this is both land destruction and ramp. So it ramps for a forest, and what's worth noting is that it doesn't have to be a basic forest. So you can search for one of those snow jewels, for example, or a gingerbread cabin, or some other interesting forest that isn't basic. And then our other land destruction spell is Thermokarst. It's 3 mana for a sorcery, 1 generic, 2 green. It says destroy target land. If it was a snow land, you gain 1 life. So the snow thing is kind of fun, although it's not going to be relevant often, but sometimes you will destroy a snow jewel and gain 1 life. Okay, so this is basically a red-green ramp deck. So we're using the Arbor Elf ramp package alongside Utopia Sprawl. So Arbor Elf, 1 green mana for a 1/1 with tap, untap target forest. Then Utopia Sprawl, 1 green mana for an aura. It says enchant forest. As Utopia Sprawl enters the battlefield, choose a color. Whenever the enchanted forest is tapped for mana, its controller adds 1 mana of the chosen color as well. And then similar to Utopia Sprawl is Wild Growth. It's also a 1 green mana aura, enchant land. Whenever enchanted land is tapped for mana, its controller adds an additional green. So also very good with Arbor Elf. And then we have 4 copies of Mind Stone, 2 mana artifact with tap add 1 colorless mana. And it also says pay 1 generic, tap, sacrifice Mind Stone, draw a card. So a bit of ramp and a bit of card draw in one. Okay, then we're playing 4 copies of Lightning Bolt just for a bit of removal. And then we're playing a whole bunch of threats. So that's essentially the deck, is we have ramp, we have land destruction, and we have threats. So our threats are for 5 mana. We have Entourage of Trest. It's 4 generic, 1 green for a 4/4. When Entourage of Trest enters the battlefield, you become the monarch. And as long as you're the monarch, Entourage of Trest can block an additional creature. Then we have good old Boarding Party, 6 mana for a 6/3 with haste, 5 generic, 1 red, and it also has Cascade. Then finally at the top of our curve we have Annoyed Altisaur, 7 mana for a 6/5, 5 generic, 2 green, and it has Reach, Trample, and Cascade. And then finally we have 2 copies of Fierce Empath, 3 mana for a 1/1, 2 generic, 1 green. When Fierce Empath enters the battlefield, you may search your library for a creature with converted mana cost 6 or greater and put it into your hand. So this lets us tutor for either Boarding Party or Annoyed Altisaur. So there we go, that's the main deck. Very simple, but pretty powerful. Although I will say our land destruction is very bad against the indestructible artifact dual lands, which are seeing quite a lot of play, so that's one thing to keep in mind. Now here's a quick rundown of the current sideboard. So we have 4 copies of Red Elemental Blast. It's 1 red for an instant. It says counter target blue spell or destroy target blue permanent. Very good against those control matchups. Then in terms of artifact hate, we have 2 copies of Ancient Grudge. It's 2 mana for an instant, 1 generic, 1 red, destroy target artifact, and it has a flashback cost of 1 green. Then we have Weather the Storm. It's 2 mana for an instant, 1 generic, 1 green. You gain 3 life. Storm. Okay, then for a bit of board wipe, we have Fiery Cannonade, 3 mana for an instant, 2 generic, 1 red. Deals 2 damage to each non-pirate creature. Then we have 2 copies of Natural Reclamation, 5 mana for an instant, 4 generic, 1 green. Destroy target artifact or enchantment. Cascade. And then finally in our sideboard, we have 2 copies of Pulse of Marasa, 3 mana for an instant, 2 generic, 1 green. Return target creature or land from your graveyard to your hand. You gain 6 life. Alright, let me quickly mention the lands. 20 lands, just a whole bunch of basic forests, a few basic mountains, and 3 ash barrens. Okay, I'd highly recommend that you take this deck for a spin because it's definitely quite powerful. I'm not entirely sure how to take it to the next level or what good new cards there are that might fit in. But if you can think of some, please let me know in the comments. If you take this deck for a test, please let me know how it goes for you. And as always, thanks for watching.